Okay, welcome to another hazardous conversation. We're getting started just a touch late, I think. And let's see, are we live? It's showing as being live. There we go. Sorry about that. Anyway, we are here. We're live, and we are going to be joined by Matthew Hayward as soon as he hops back into the meeting. So hopefully he will go get in there. And while we wait, look what came in. Our t-shirts are finally here. So if you've ordered one, you're going to get it. I'm going to put them in the mail tomorrow. And here's what the backside looks like in case you are wondering. I know it's kind of washed out there from the light, but it turned out really great. It's extremely readable, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy them. So let's see. Matthew's not in the meeting just yet, so let's give it just a little bit longer here. Oh, there he is. And I think he's coming into my meeting now. Are you with us, Matt?
Yes, sir.
You there?
Yeah. How you doing, Tyler?
Okay. All right, this is going to be really challenging because I've got my AirPods in, but it's also picking up the computer audio from the stream. So I'm going to give it over to you to start talking. And then I'm going to go try and mute all the other screens so that I only hear you in the Zoom meeting. Okay. So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody here? I'll put you as the only person on the screen, or at least the feature person on the screen. Take it away, Matt.
All right. Yeah. So my name is Matthew Hayward, and I've been an activist for a long time. The National Outreach Director for the Freedom Foundation in Olympia. Just saw the rally that, last year when the lockdown happened, I had a close friend, and he ended up committing suicide, and I had been talking with him every day and working with him for the couple of weeks during that, give me 2 weeks for the lockdown thing. And that was pretty rough, and that got me really upset and got me really involved with pushing back against the lockdowns. And after Tyler had the first large rally, I noticed that there was a problem with lack of porta potties, and there was a couple thousand people there, and I believe there was one porta potty, and it was for the workers on the other side of a fence. And I had done quite a bit of organizing in the past, so I got with Tyler after that and was like, hey, I'd love to help you out on the next one. Make sure we get some of these minor details figured out. So that's kind of how I got to know Tyler and started working with him, helping to organize and work on some of these rallies having to do with the governor's overreach.
Excellent. Okay, I think I got it figured out. So I only hear you in the Zoom now, so that's good.
All right.
Yeah, no, it was really fortuitous because we had, I think we had kind of crossed paths a couple times before that, just in other various activism aspects. But then this really kind of gelled us together in our communication and working together. And it's been great working with you because you just provide kind of a grounding rod to some of the ideas that I have and everything. And you're like, well, you bring a more of an organizational aspect to it. So that's really good. But so we've got this one coming up. No, you move. And the whole point of this is to show numbers and to get people to show up. So, I think we've done a good job of emphasizing why it's important, why we need to hold the line, why we can't give in. I think Jason Rance just had another article today about all WSP exemptions have been denied now at this point, or the accommodations have been rejected. So even the ones that have been, the exemptions that have been granted, the accommodations are being rejected. So basically no WSP workers are going to be able to continue unless they get the jab. So why, well, why don't you give your take on the importance of people showing up to this one?
Yeah, well, I guess a couple of things. One, with rallies in general, and again, I've been an activist for almost 20 years, and one of the things that I really believe strongly in is that we owe it to ourselves and our principles to learn how to be more effective. So over the years, I've constantly stepped back and reevaluated and tried to determine, are my actions actually effective in accomplishing my goals, right? And I don't think most of the time rallies are beneficial. And I think that right now what's going on with small pockets of people going out and doing sine waves and things all over the state is great, so long as people are networking and connecting and trading information and getting to know each other in their small communities. I think that is tremendous and very powerful. But I think you need to understand the purpose is primarily for networking. There's a little bit of good for the general standing out and showing to the community who's maybe not paying nearly as much attention, and they're getting fed a line of crap from the media so that they can actually see that maybe what they're being told isn't entirely accurate. But for the most part, I'm not a big fan of rallies. I don't think that they're real effective. And here's what I mean by that. Sometimes I've had a lot of people ask me, why are you guys having a rally on a weekend? There's nobody there. And my thought is, what would it matter if there were people there? They don't care, right? They're not going to change their mind because 10,000 people show up at the Capitol and hold a rally. That isn't going to influence their decision because a lot of people are upset and mad. Right. Now, there is a reason to have 10,000 people there, and there's a reason to do it on the weekend. First of all, a lot of state employees work during the week and can come on the weekend. You can get more people there on the weekend. We need people to come from Eastern Washington. So doing it on a Saturday is tough. If you're asking people to drive 10, 11 hours in one day, or get off work on Friday and then drive over and stay the night on Friday night, that's just a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask no matter what, but at least this way, people can travel over on Saturday, stay the night, come to the rally on Sunday and leave. And then
right.
For the purpose of the rally, again, we're going to cover this more, but the purpose of the rally is to give people courage and to show how many people there are and to hear the stories about why they can't follow through with this mandate. And to have different people from different areas come forward and say, X percentage of people at my office place are not going to comply, and this is what will happen if they go through with it. I mean, I'm getting hundreds of calls at my office, and I talked to someone today from a private healthcare facility up in Puyallup, and she told me that 50% of their staff are not vaccinated and are not going to comply. 50% of their staff, the radiologist, I mean, and she's sitting there going, how, we're not going to be able to function. This is going to shut it down. And I told her, I said, that's why they can't follow through, because you're not the only one. I'm hearing this every day.
Right. And that's one of the comments that I got consistently. And we got this comments last year during the rallies that we had. The solidarity, the number of people that comment and say, I'm not alone. I don't feel alone now. And you even see that when you hear interviews on the radio, or you hear, or you see articles posted that are shared on our site, or you share. A common comment that always comes through is, it's nice to know I'm not alone. I felt so isolated. And I think that's a strategy that the governor's counting on, really, is to make you feel isolated, to make you feel like you're the only one opposing this. You're the only one who's not doing this. And it's because of you personally that we're going to have to shut down this hospitals. You need to suck it up. Right.
Well, and I mean, honestly, Tyler, that's something we need to make sure we get this point across crystal clear at the rally as well. And that is, unlike a strike, I think first responders and workers need to do the opposite, especially first responders, correction officers, people where people's lives are directly in danger if they're not able to work, right? And they need to say, we will not go on strike. We are not going to quit. We are not going to abandon our job in the public safety. If you want to endanger the public, you're going to have to fire us and do it yourself, because we're going to continue to show up at work, ready to work and do our job.
Absolutely. That because I'm facing this at work. I'm a federal employee, and they haven't put out the policy in its specifics yet. So I don't know what my timeline's looking like. But I've already decided I am going to continue to show up at work as long as my badge swipes, as long as I can, as long as I'm not being held at gunpoint telling me, go away. I'm going to continue to do my job. And I think that you hit a really important point there. People need to not quit. They need to not threaten to strike. I like the ideas of walkouts to give people momentary pause of what would this look like, if everything shut down. So like the ferry workers, if they decided, hey, we're all going to be at this rally on the 3rd, so there can't be any ferry service, that's great. I think that's a wonderful way to show, because you are not going to put anybody's life in danger by not having the ferry service for a few hours. You just aren't, you just aren't. But with just about every other aspect, that you're absolutely right, especially first responders, frontline workers, do not quit, do not walk away, do not stage massive walkouts. Continue to work, continue to be there, and force them to use force against you.
Absolutely. On a totally separate note, I know there's a few lawsuits that have been filed in Washington, and I know that the organization I work for just filed one in Oregon, and I think that they're getting ready to file one next week. I say I think because I'm the outreach director. I'm not part of the legal department. There's a lot going on. And again, just to clarify, I'm not on this show or speaking in capacity of my role at my office. I'm speaking on behalf of myself as an activist. But I did want to point out that, I made a video that my wife asked me to do a month ago because everyone was passing a bill around saying, this is the solution, this is the silver bullet, everyone contact your legislators to get this bill passed. And I explained to her why that was not going to work. And she's asked me to make a video. I made a video. It got 28,000 views. And suddenly I was like, wow, I guess I should make more videos and talk to people. But the point is in that video, I said, I don't believe there is any legal solution. And I don't believe that there is any legislative solution. Now, I know theoretically there is a solution both ways, but I don't think people should count on it. And I think more importantly, people should realize that neither are necessary. And so it doesn't matter if it's legal or not. It only matters if they can convince you to comply or not.
Right.
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah. Well, and we've seen that this entire year. The law is meaningless to people who view it as a convenience or a hindrance, to whatever their purposes are. We've seen laws selectively enforced. We had, Antifa completely take over sections of Seattle all summer long. Nothing happened to them. We've just got such an unequal application. So you're right. Why should we expect when those in power are not following the laws on the books? Why should we expect more law to be our answer? I've never understood that argument. This is actually an area, because I know Jim Walsh has a bill that he's putting forth, and rightfully so, with all the recent news, that would ban vaccine passports essentially. And it's good legislation, and I hope that it gets taken up, and I hope that it gets debated. But we're in September. The next legislative session isn't until January.
Too late.
And the last time I checked, his party's still in the minority in both houses and doesn't have the governorship. So I don't see that bill, other than a good debate, I don't see that bill going anywhere. So we're talking about 2023 at the earliest that we could see any legislative relief, unless there's a special legislative session. But again, you have the political makeup of the legislature and the governor standing in the way.
Do you really want a special legislative session run by the Democrats? I mean,
No, because it's
anybody?
no, because they will use that to do all sorts of fun
I
and
mean,
nasty things.
I mentioned that in the video I mentioned, where if one of the several lawsuits the Freedom Foundation filed and are in court pending right now last year from the governor's overreach, let's say the Freedom Foundation wins one of those lawsuits against the governor's emergency powers and strips him of those powers. You know how quick we'd see a special legislative session? The Democrats would be in Olympia the next day passing into law these edicts, and then we're really screwed. So that's kind of my thought, is everyone's thinking, oh my gosh, we just need to get the legislators in here. Now, it is true the legislators don't want to go on the record and make these votes. And that was part of the reason why I was pressuring and others were pressuring, because we're like, if we're going to do it, let's do it legally and let's do it the right way. And let's make these people vote and go on the record so that in swing districts, they're smoked next time around. And that's why we want the governor to do it. But my point is that them coming in is not going to save the day and protect anybody.
No, and no, it's not. And that's actually one of the great points that the lead lawyer in one of the larger lawsuits is happening in Washington State, Nathan Anderson, and which, by the way, he is going to be speaking at our rally on the 3rd. So he makes a really great point that, if we accept that government has this right, because that's the first challenge that he puts out there, is that we don't think government has this right to force you to receive these injections. So there's that. But if government has that right at all, it's got to be the legislative body that has that power to do that. It cannot be the governor. It cannot be the courts. It has to be the legislative, the people's representatives, making the law, as the Constitution says. By the way, happy Constitution Day. Well, we still got 12 minutes left of it.
That's right.
There you go.
I'll tell you though, that is part of the problem, is judges have repeatedly over and over and over in cases challenging the governor taken the position that this is not a legal or judicial matter. It is a legislative matter, and there is a separation of powers for a reason. And they have actually, in some cases, almost sounded sympathetic to our cases and our arguments with some of the mask mandates and other things while we're in court, by saying that they're not in a place to speak to the merits of these policies. This is legislative in nature. And if there is a problem to redress what the governor is doing, it can be done that quick by your democratically elected officials. And therefore, it is not the place of a judge to be ruling. So we're barking up the wrong tree. And whether you agree with that or not, we're not here to debate it. I'm just telling you, that is what the judges have repeatedly said, that they're not going to rule on the merits of your arguments because you're essentially asking them to make a policy decision.
Right. And we should always, I know that they're, especially on the right of center political thinking, there is a lot of people who are very much of the opinion that we need to start beating leftists at their own game. We need to start, going in and getting court decisions and appointing judges and everything. It's like, do you really want to open that Pan's door? Do you want our entire principles of governance and rights to be just a judicial ping pong match that every couple decades, we get certain rights and we lose certain rights, and we get certain rights and we lose certain rights? How about we go back to the founding principles and the idea that we have a document. We were one of the first countries in the history of the world to find the necessity to write down our Constitution, write it down. So say, this isn't just an abstract notion. This isn't just a exclusive club of jurists that know what our Constitution says. Right. Anyone can read it because it's written down. These are enduring principles, and it restrains people. And what's so fascinating, quick history lesson, I can't help it because I have a master's in history, but you look at some of the early presidents who agonized over some of the decisions and some of the choices that they were faced with. Adams with the Alien and Sedition Acts, Jefferson with the Louisiana Purchase, Madison with a lot of what was going on with the War of 1812 and some of the things that were happening with the naval buildup and military buildup. And they anguished over, can I do this? What does the Constitution say? Jefferson thought that the Louisiana Purchase was completely unconstitutional. He did it anyway, but he personally felt that it was completely unconstitutional and that he was going to that the treaty was going to get rejected. Now we have presidents who go off and governors who make campaign speeches or State of the Unions or nightly press conferences that state their intent to find ways to get around it, to find loopholes, and they're brazen about it, and people are just kind of like, okay, well, it's an emergency, it's a really bad cold, and we can't have that. I don't want to get into the debate on the severity of the COVID flu. I have my opinions, and I don't think anyone who follows this page doubts what my opinions are on that. But when we're talking about our civil liberties, and that's why I've named this page Liberty at All Hazards, just because I believe that our liberties must endure in the face of all hazards. Yes, in the face of a global pandemic, our liberties have to endure even in that.
And even when you're faced with losing your job.
Exactly. As just about everybody at this point now is, because how many of us work for a company that has fewer than 100 employees?
So I think we had a vice president, former U.S. Senator Herbert Humphrey, and I love this quote. There are not enough jails, not enough police, and not enough courts to enforce a law not supported by the people. And I absolutely love that. And if you look back at this pandemic, you look back to the rallies last year that we had, my little standoff with State Patrol and DES with my pop-up tent where they, came over and tried to get me to take it down and
handing out water on a hot day.
Right. I had a couple of elderly people that weren't supposed to be in the sun. It was the hottest day of the year up to that point, and they were using it for shade. And they told me I didn't have a permit, so I had to take it down. And I was looking around. I'm like, we're not even allowed to be here.
Exactly.
That was just ridiculous. But the point is, and I was about to give a speech on noncompliance. And so I was like, look, you're either going to arrest me or I'm going to go give a speech on noncompliance. And that was kind of fun. But the point is, they didn't do anything. And so part of my speech was that you have not lost any freedom until it has been taken by you with force or you've willingly surrendered it. And that is the only way you can lose freedom. One of those two ways. And I guess my other point is, we're going to have a ton of law enforcement at our rally, right? I mean, we're going to have a whole bunch of them up there. And also think about one more thing. The police were not interested in forcing the mask mandates or many or most of these different ridiculous restrictions. So what did the governor do? He went to his bureaucrats and started going through L&I and started putting pressure on businesses. And this gets back to the need to stand our ground. If you don't have the law enforcement on your side and they are not going to enforce it, you're in a pretty weak position to enforce your power when you no longer have the police backing your dictates. Mm-hmm. And that's where we're at. And that is how tenuous this situation is. And that is why the people need to realize that we are in control and we can stop all of this anytime we want.
Absolutely. And, there are people who, and I think rightfully agree that, or assert that part of this plan is to purge law enforcement, to purge these agencies of people who will honor individual civil liberties and individual rights and business rights, so that they can only have people in there who will do whatever and follow whatever order the governor issues. And we can't be afraid of that. We know that's a goal, but we can't be afraid of that. We can't say, well, I need to stay in my job so that they don't take over. No, you need to stand your ground and force them to not fire you in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I was going to go with this, that they're not replaceable in those numbers. And if you have this conspiratorial idea of like, this is the plan or whatever, I probably can't argue and win with you. You've already made up your mind. But they've been short on corrections officers since prior to the pandemic. And it so happens that correction officers typically are not left-leaning bootlickers. And so there are not people to replace the people who are there. If there were, they would be hiring them already. They wouldn't be so short-staffed and in this situation to start with. So, I mean, yes, just don't lose your jobs in the first place. Nobody has to get fired. Everyone just needs to stand together.
Well, no, they got plenty of people coming in from Afghanistan.
And hey, one other point I'll make on that this is kind of a little bit, I don't know. Let's say the governor doesn't care and he's just going to fire everyone and let it burn. Let the hospitals be short-staffed where, people are dying in the waiting rooms and the stories are just going to be absolutely horrific. And he's going to try to paint it as the non-vaccinated fault that he fired all these first responders and healthcare workers and people in the prisons. It would be an absolute catastrophe and state of emergency like nothing we've ever seen. He can try and blame whoever he wants, but it will be clearly his fault because it's not going to be happening everywhere else in the country. The Democratic legislators, you think they're going to sit on their hands and watch this happen? They don't want to be put in this situation, right? They don't want to have to call a special legislative session to come in and take over and repeal the governor's powers and restore order. They don't want to be put in that situation. They don't want to do that. Here's what they don't want to do. They don't want to sit on their hands and watch that happen and have the elections come up next year, because this would be happening around Christmas time and early into next year when everyone's getting ready to file for office. The swing district races would just be decimated. It would be a red wave. The Democratic legislators aren't going to just sit by and let the governor burn this thing to the ground. Right. So again, that gets back to the whole premise of this rally and getting the people together and building the numbers. It is, if there are enough people who refuse to comply, they cannot enforce the mandate. They can only enforce the mandate if it is not going to be too painful. And that is really the ultimate premise.
So one of the things that so the one of those large unions negotiated this extension kind of deal, right? And it's not really an extension. It's, if you plan to retire, you're going to be given a little bit more time, or if you're pursuing, maybe you've had the first shot, but you haven't had the second shot in time. All these carve outs and stuff. Do you see the governor potentially pursuing a strategy to carve up the resistance, to split them up in any way to dwindle our numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is key, right? From the very beginning, it's been an attempt to make people feel like they're alone. In every interview that he does and Jenny Durkin does, they always continue to double down on this propaganda of everyone is going to do the right thing. And when they understand they're going to, they're good people and they've been with us and they're going to do the right thing, nobody's not going to do this. Like, they're just in total disbelief and denial that anyone wouldn't get it. They know better. This is called propaganda. They are out messaging, and they will message to the deadline because they know that the people who don't want to get it are going to wait until the last minute to get it. So they're not going to let up on their propaganda and their fear mongering, not one bit. They're going to go all the way to the deadline. And as far as strategies and tactics, yeah, things I want you guys to all watch out for. The people who have been given extra time, guess what they've just done? They've divided your numbers. The people who have sought exemptions and been denied and that are given more time or had a vaccine or are going to retire, if they give you an extra 60 days, 90 days, if there's enough of you that they've given time, they may be able to fire the remaining number of people without causing too much disruption. And what is that going to do to those people who have received those exemptions? They're going to be terrified. They're going to say, oh my God, it isn't a bluff. they're following through. Of course, they're dead wrong. They're absolutely wrong in their estimation there. This is just a tactic. They're saying, okay, let's say we can only lose 40% of the people who are currently refusing to do this. Well, luckily, 65% of them have given exemptions or something that we're going to give extra time to. So we can safely fire all of the people who are not giving extra time to and survive that. And now all we have to do is fearmonger the rest of these people into compliance, which is going to be a lot easier, especially considering most of the people who have sought these exemptions in the first place, not all of them, but they're more likely to be people who are softer or more concerned or more willing to surrender. Some of them aren't, but they're more likely to. Whereas the people who didn't seek any exemptions, they're the hardliners. They're the people who are like, I'm ride or die, man. I'm going all the way. I am not playing around. I am not going to do this. So, again, makes it easier for them to fearmonger.
Right. Which again, also, if they do it in that kind of dribble way, that softens that blow of, okay, we're only firing, of the 40%, we're only firing 30% of that right now. We're retaining 60 to 70%. And it doesn't have that pressure that we were just talking about on the legislature, because it will create disruptions, but not as many. And it gives them a little bit of time to replenish or to settle that out while they threaten the other 70%.
So the trick is, I mean, this is brilliant for them. I mean, it's a great position for the state to be in. It's not a great position for everyone with the message to hold your ground. It gives, I mean, I can only really think of two good options, and that is one, to continue to hold the line and do not comply and recognize that it's a bluff. And basically what happened is that, the Normandy example, the people who charged the beach just got wasted, and you're the next line, right? And are you going to charge and win the day, or are you going to give up now? And that's essentially the position they're putting them in. By separating them out, they're taking out the hardliners that are on the front line, if they go that route and choose to do that. And I don't know, the one other thing that they could do, I don't see this happening, especially because a lot of these people, like I said, are the ones who are more fearful, is to walk out if anyone gets fired. And this gets to a second group that I think we're going to talk about on October 3rd too, and that is the firefighters. But again, to reemphasize, what I'm saying is, if you have an exemption and you're a DSHS worker or a corrections officer, and they give you an extra 3 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever to make your decision or get a shot or do whatever you got to do, and they fire your coworkers, you need to make it abundantly clear, if you fire them, I'm not coming to work.
Right.
You're losing all of us. You don't have any more time, because you don't understand, people. They're not buying time for you. They're buying time for them. That's what you need to understand. This isn't for you. This is for them. Any extension that is given is for the governor. It is for the state. It is for them to figure out what's going on, because they're in a terrible position. You're not in as bad of a position as they are. And they're trying to project and flip the script and make it feel like they're doing you a favor. They're not doing anything for you. They're doing this because they can't afford to lose all of those people at once, which means the people hold all the power and they just don't realize it.
Right. Which is why we need the numbers to show up, because if we show those numbers, if we show not just the people who are willing to lose their jobs, but also the people who are willing to walk away from their jobs if those people lose their jobs, if we show the families that are going to be impacted, if we show the people who are going to have to work now a triple shift because you've now decimated our workforce, if we show up in that force, you are going to put the pressure on this governor. He's going to have to walk back in some form. Right. Hopefully it's a form that we can live with, and we can get to that in a little bit, but we have the power here.
Yeah. I mean, from the beginning, they've been saying, you don't have the numbers, you're weak. Every day, more people are getting it. You may even know some people who are getting it, and you're hyper focused on the fact that people that have gone and got it. So here's my message. If you think you're losing your numbers, build them back. Don't surrender. Don't give up. Don't think, oh, they went and got vaccinated. They're lost cause. No, they're not. Why are they a lost cause? And again, the harder they push, the more desperate they are. What they need is for you to comply. That's what they need, is for you to comply. What do you need? You need the vaccinated. You need the people who have been vaccinated voluntarily, who wanted to be vaccinated, who opposed the mandate. There's a decent number of people that feel that way, and you're going to hear some of them on October 3rd. You need those people. So I am going to urge that this anti-vaccine message is not helpful if this is your fight. If what we're talking about in this rally and keeping people's jobs and stopping the mandate, if that is your goal right now, then anti-vaccine message isn't very helpful. That's a different battle.
Absolutely. And I have always been, and this is something I have to clarify every once in a while because people do get this confused. I have never been anti-vaccine ever in my life. I think that vaccines are a wonderful tool of science. I am anti-mandate. I'm anti-government telling me I have to do this. So we need to, and this is another thing, the governor's trying to pit this and the president's trying to pit this as vaccinated versus unvaccinated. And it's not. We are not vaccinated versus unvaccinated. We are authoritarianism, communism, socialism, statism versus freedom. This is, you can't get much clearer than this.
Isn't it going to be wonderful when we have our speakers who are vaccinated getting up there and speaking out against the mandate and saying, we're standing with our coworkers, and if you fire them, we quit.
Right. Because if they can mandate this, if they can tell you must inject this into your body, then they can tell you to inject that into your body, and that, and it never ends. And you do not have anything even resembling life, liberty, or property, or pursuit of happiness, depending on how you want to put it. So
there's two other groups that you need. And again, they need you to comply. You need the vaccinated on your side because you're losing numbers, as they say, right? You have to build them back. So the other group is, as Tyler mentioned, those who don't want your workload, right? So these may be somewhat apolitical people. They got the vaccine. They didn't really care one way or the other about it. They just don't care, right? But maybe they're bureaucrats and they just go to their work. They just do their job. What's going to happen if they lose 5, 10, 15, 20% of people in their workplace? Their workload's going to increase. So politely and respectfully trying to talk to some of these people and just let them know that, obviously it's not going to work with the people who are super pro-vaccine, who hate people who are not getting the vaccine. But there is another group in the middle that you should be talking to, saying, stand with us, stop this mandate. If you don't, I'm going to stand my ground and I'm going to be fired and you're going to pick up my workload. If you don't want that to happen, if you want me to stay here, if you don't want my workload, stand your ground with me and no one gets fired and nothing has to happen, right? So that's the second group. And the third group, those who have already caved, those who single mothers with 2 kids, they're the sole income. They felt all alone. They weren't connected with anybody else and they were terrified and they went and they got the vaccine. They may have given up on you, but don't give up on them. We can win these people back. And that is what October 3rd is all about. We need to have numbers large enough there to inspire people to stand their ground and say, holy shit, there is enough of us. We can stop this mandate. All we have to do is tell our employer, we'll walk. We'll all walk. We'll shut this whole thing down. And it's over. It would end immediately. I mean, that is the power we have.
It would. And, like you were just saying, those kind of apolitical people, we all know somebody like that. In either we work with them or we know somebody who works with them. They're the same people who are saying, just get the shot. What's the big deal? Just get the shot. Turn it around saying, what's the big deal? Why is he forcing this on us? What's the big deal? Why is this a mandate? Turn that argument right on its head and say, if you don't think this is such a big deal, if you don't think me getting the shot or not getting the shot is such a big deal, then it shouldn't be enough to fire me over. And that's the fight that you need to be standing with us on. So yeah, we need to get everyone there. So you and I are in a number of the same groups on Facebook, other social media, and I'm about to have a coughing fit. So here, take over for a second.
Yeah, I do want to throw out there one thing about so I know groups that are caravanning from Spokane, from Yakima, from Chelan, and I've been pushing out the video October 3rd / time to rise on YouTube. Somebody put it on Rumble. I don't have a Rumble. I don't know how to use it. Download it, put it on Rumble, put it out in Telegram groups. We all have different social mediums. Go ahead and get that out there. But we have a Facebook group with an event page. We don't have a lot of RSVPs. We're going to have thousands of people there, but we're probably not going to have thousands of RSVPs. Why don't you go ahead and go and RSVP, please? And every single person who put interested, I don't care if you're coming or not. Go and RSVP. Yes, I'm coming. People say they're interested or hesitate to come because they're waiting for other people to say they're coming. It's a psychology thing. So I just urge you to go there and do that. It looks bad when there aren't a lot of RSVPs, when I know that there are thousands of people who are coming. So that's my one pitch for the Facebook group. If you can find, or how do they find that, Tyler?
So if you go on the Liberty at All Hazards page, it's on the event tabs there. I share it to just about every group that I'm in. And I'm glad that you did mention that, because not only do people react to that, but media reacts to that. The amount of coverage that we're going to get they're going to look at the Facebook page and they're going to say, well, there's only like 200 people that are saying that they're actually going to go to this thing, and it's not going to get that much coverage. Where the 3 events that I've helped organize over the last year and a half, we've consistently had several thousand people show up. So, we need to make sure that everyone knows that this is the event to come to. This is the big one, so to speak. And what I was going to actually mention before my my chronic cough decided to kick in, no, it's not COVID. You all know this. Is that, the number of groups that, yeah, it might be. I don't know. I'm not going to get tested. That's for sure. But the number of groups that we're in, I mean, we have several tens of thousands of people in these groups. Now, a lot of them are probably like us. They're probably in the same groups, cross contaminated, you can kind of say. But, at least one of the groups has over 40,000 people. If only a quarter of them show up, that's 10,000 people that shows up to this thing. And I'll share a little bit of my frustration with this idea that, I'm sorry, you need to cancel your plans. You need to not be somewhere else that day. You need to come to this event. You need to show up and support this cause, because this is the fight. Everyone who says, I'm tired of us losing ground, I'm tired of us not ever making a difference. If you're not going to be in Olympia on the 3rd, then I really don't want to hear from you ever again about that complaint. I don't want to hear your arguments about why you can't be there, about other things you got going on, because this is literally the fight of our lives. Because if we lose this, we don't have lives. We're done. At least in this state, we're done. And maybe you've already decided that you're checking out. Maybe you've already decided that you're going to be moving out of the state or whatever. But you'd have to be a complete, I don't want to use bad language or insult anybody. You would have to have an incredible amount of space between your ears if you think that it's going to stay here, because we have at least another 3 years at the federal level of this nonsense, and it is going to be pursued wherever you try to run to. At least make a stand while you're here to stand.
Yeah.
You're going to flee the battlefield, at least make the enemy pay for it.
How is this not one of the greatest moments to make a stand and to show up and stand with people. When have anyone in civilian life come and been willing to sacrifice so much? You know, there are going to be so many people who are staring down the end of their careers wherever they're at, and they're willing to ride it to the very end. And you're what? You're going to watch a football game because it's a Sunday, or you don't want to drive because it's too far to go. I agree with Tyler. And like I said, I'm not a big fan of rallies typically. Last year I went to the rallies, like I said, partially because of my friend, partially because they claimed that they were suspending the First Amendment. And I was like, wait a minute, what? we can't gather. Okay, let's go. Like,
Yeah,
that was the reason to rally, right? They specifically said you can't rally. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna rally. I don't even like rallies. I don't even see what the point is. But the point is, I'm gonna go rally just to show you that you can't stop us from rallying. This time it's not. This time it's to go stand with people. We're gonna have a bunch of law enforcement, hundreds of law enforcement, who are gonna be up there and saying, we're putting ourselves on the line. Firefighters, tons of firefighters are gonna be there. We're going to put ourselves on the line. We're going to give up our careers. We have families, we have kids. Why can't we get every single person we can possibly get to go and show up, stand with them, support them, and make the same pledge if you are in a position where you may lose your job, and say, I'm going to stand that line with you.
Yep. And if you've been avoiding having those conversations with your friends and your family, if you've been trying to avoid the politics, this can't be political. I'm sorry, it can't. Yes, there is a political component to it, and in my view, it's a very clear line which side is supporting what. But the notion, the simple notion of freedom, should you be forced to receive this injection to keep your job, how can that be a political issue? How can that be politically divisive in any way, shape, or form? And if it is, then and you're afraid to have conversations with people because of that, maybe you're not in a healthy relationship, whatever that relationship is. If it's friends and family, if it's family, we've all got family, we've all got those issues we've got to deal with. But you need to be having these conversations. You need to be having it with your church fellows, with your coworkers, especially, but with your community, because these are the people who claim to care about you, right? These are the people who claim to support you and be involved in your lives and be involved in your kids' lives. They should be there supporting you too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I encourage people to bring their families. I thought it was powerful when the firefighters at our last rally brought all the rest of the firefighters and frontline folks up and brought their families up as well. And so, yeah, I encourage people to bring their families as well.
So real quick, I was just looking at the sorry. This technology, I'm looking at two screens at the same time. Looking at the chat room, just some of the comments that have come through. One question that is interesting, and we can just touch on it real quick, is what can we do with private employers who are starting to adopt this? Now, in my mind, well, first of all, our rally is not aimed at private employers per se. I think we will have an impact by having that same sort of pressure to say, oh, look, there is a very strong opposition. But I don't think employers are acting as private entities in this. Honestly, I think that they are being strong-armed by the government, and they're going with the path of least resistance. They're blowing with what they see as the winds of change. But yes, our rally's not really addressing that.
I absolutely agree. I will make a comment just off the cuff without thinking a lot, and that is, they're going with the path of least resistance. And everything I know about politics would suggest that if you want to stop them, then you need to make the path more resistant, right? You need to make it more painful for them to go with the government than to go with you, which would mean that we need to get every citizen we can to double down on not giving business to people who are complying. And we also need to actively try and get people to quit their jobs or leave those places and not work there and hurt them. We need to have people say, I will not comply. We won't work here. We're not going to shop here. We're going to make it so you're going to be, negatively financially impacted. That's the only way to do it. I'm not saying it would work. And yeah, like you said, it's not what our rally's about. However, as we talked about before this, I am talking to and working with some folks in the private sector, both medical and airline, that are talking about doing stuff like this. And the same principle applies. If you have the numbers to completely shut something down, then do it.
Yeah.
Get everybody together and shut it down. They can't afford to have air travel shut down. They cannot have hospitals shut down. If you have the numbers to shut these things down, you can stop the mandate.
Right. And so in that regard, I actually do think that our rally does help a little bit, because again, it gets back to that solidarity aspect of having people see how many other people are resisting this and are going to be there as a support network, to network with other people, to say, okay, so you're going to be resisting this, I'm going to resisting this, you're going to lose your job, I'm going to lose my job, you're a nurse, I'm a doctor, or you're a firefighter and we live in the same neighborhood, so maybe we can rely on each other to provide these things, because we're not now going to be able to participate in society. So now we can just form our own networks and help each other out. And so I think in that way, in that roundabout way, our rally does help that cause, because again, we have to see that we're not alone. We have to see that not only are we not alone, but we have strength.
Right. Something I got today that I wanted to share too. So the governor said that we will not be doing testing because testing doesn't work. So you have to get the vax. Well, this is the Olympia School District. They sent out, I have reviewed your religious exemption request and it is approved.
Yay.
It goes on to say, for your accommodations, you must be trained and fitted for an N95 mask or district approved alternative. You will wear an N95 mask or district approved alternative at all times while on school district sites. No eating with coworkers or students. You will physically distance yourself from other individuals to the greatest extent possible given your work assignment. You will complete a COVID test once a week and share the results with the district. You will be subject to quarantine rules for employees who are not fully vaccinated per the Thurston County Health, blah, 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 blah. Here's the key. Although the district approved your request and is able to provide these accommodations for now, both that approval and the offered accommodations are subject to review and revision in the future based on new information, changed circumstances, or legal guidance, or for other reasons.
Was everyone just paying attention? Does he need to read it again? You are not safe. If you have an exemption or an accommodation, you are not safe. You are going to be fired if you do not comply and get the jab. That is the choice that is before you. It is not even a question. You will get the jab or you will not be in society. You will not be in that job. And that statement right there proves it.
Or you stand the line with everybody on the 18th and you don't let them divide us, because
absolutely
that is their goal. That is their win. That is their win. That is how they accomplish the mandate successfully, is to divide and weaken the numbers and make people feel alone, make examples out of people, and weaken the ranks. That's how they win. How you win is to build your numbers, to grow your numbers, to recruit the vaccinated for whatever the various reasons there are. It's for you to campaign to grow your numbers and then ultimately to hold your ground.
Yes. So if you've gotten your exemption, and even if you got your accommodation, you're still with us. You still need to show up. You still need to show up and say, you know what? I'm still not going to work for you if you fire all these people. I'm still not going to do this if you follow through with this threat. And it's a threat. You know, I think I shared this in my last live, and I don't know if I shared it with you yet, Matt, but you know, I got my semi-annual visit with the FBI because I got somebody who follows this page, who's probably Miguel Luis or whoever it is from the Antifa crowd who is infatuated with me. Did an anonymous tip, and they have to follow up on their anonymous tips. Now, you know, I have absolutely no doubt in my mind whatsoever that we're being targeted and we're being watched, but kind of lost my train of thought here. Yeah, I won't go into it. What's that?
Love your shirt.
Oh, it's great. No, these shirts are fantastic. We had them. We wanted to have them in time for the full state fair, but we have them now, and I'm going to be getting the first batch. If you've ordered, they're going to be in the mail tomorrow. But they're great because they say I'm exempt, and on the back they have the actual printing from the current mask order of who's exempt and why. So if it's hard to see with the white wash out of the light and everything, but it has the exact language there, so you don't even have to explain to someone. Just say read the back.
So there was essential employees, right? People they're going to fire now if they don't get the jab. The essential employees. Yeah,
all those people who all the essential ones who are now non-essential, but they're essential because they have to get the jab, but they're not essential. But yeah, let's not even get into the roundabout that this governor does.
By the way, I mean, the mask thing is one thing. I know that there's a small number of us on the west side and probably a greater number on the east side that have refrained from giving business to people who require masks. But the larger number of people have pretty much surrendered on that and just given up. They broke them down. They broke them down over a great amount of time. People started just putting their masks on. At least a lot of people did. We can't let that happen with the vaccines and the vaccine passports. That can't happen. Right. If Costco requires a vaccine and you keep your membership, I mean, you're dead to me. Like, you can't possibly claim to have any values and beliefs toward opposing these things and do that cognitive dissonance. I mean,
well, it's like any conservative, libertarian, Republican, anybody on the political right who stays in California right now is just you're I don't know what you are. I can't even describe it, because why would you intentionally continue that? We're not far behind. That, you know, we can't make too much fun because we're not far behind with where we're at here. But no, I mean, you're absolutely right. Now, my experience with this reiteration of the mask mandate is I still refuse to wear the mask, and I go in. I keep a copy of the Secretary of Health's order in my back pocket. I haven't had to show it to anybody because no one cares. I haven't had anybody say anything to me. The signs are posted. I get some glares from maybe one or two people, but no one says anything to me. No one's approached me about it. Now, it could be because I'm a guy, and from what I've seen, most people like to attack women who are by themselves. Most of the videos that you see of people getting mask shamed tend to be women shopping by themselves. I don't know if you saw the one of the woman being stalked in Target by that one guy. But again, it's that non-compliance aspect. It's that, no, I'm not gonna play your theater. I'm not gonna play your game.
Right. I go shopping. I do stuff all the time, and usually there's other people without masks as well. But I don't care if I'm the only one, and I don't get problems at Safeway or at Home Depot or Lowe's. Last week I went there, and
I get some people taking their mask. They see me and they take their mask
they
off.
take their mask. It encourages them, which
Yeah.
is what this rally is all about in a bigger sense, right?
Bingo.
Like, give other people courage to stand up because they don't know better. You know, there's a lot of people who are passively supportive of what's going on, and all they need is for you to stand up and say, I'm holding the line. I'm not doing this. You're going to have to fire me. You know, that's a little bit bigger deal, but injecting something into somebody is a little bit bigger deal than telling somebody to put a piece of cloth on their face too. So the stakes have gone up, and this is where the governor has made a mistake. He thought he was going to be able to roll everybody, and they're still trying, and they have rolled some, but nowhere near enough. They underestimated how many people were going to be so adamantly opposed to this. They thought people would just surrender, that they wouldn't be willing to give up their jobs, right? It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They figured, you know, we just put them into this corner and they are going to surrender. They didn't think enough people would be so passionate and so opposed to it. And now they're in a real bad position where they've trapped a bunch of people in a corner and they have no way out. The governor didn't leave them a way out. And what do? You get people who are willing to walk up and speak on a microphone that would never do it in the past. I deal with public employee unions and opt-outs, people who are opting out of the union, people who wanted to opt out but were afraid to opt out because they were afraid to be bullied or harassed or intimidated by fellow employees. You think they're still in the union? They don't care anymore, because now their job is threatened. Now they're in a whole new game. They're like, screw it, I'm opting out, right? And that's what the governor's done. It's a dangerous thing to do when you put someone in a position where they have nothing to lose.
It doesn't do much good to be part of a union when the union can't save your job. So.
Right, and they're not even trying for the most of them. I mean,
right.
The firefighters union's actually done something for them. The police unions have done some, varying between.
Depends on which ones you look at and you talk about. But well, we've been yammering on for about an hour now. Is there any thing that you think we need to wrap up with, or one more plug? I mean, we've hit as hard on the head this nail as we can of people showing up, and we're going to do it a couple more times between now and the rally time.
Make signs saying hold your ground. We should probably have people show up at noon to make signs, do a sign making thing out by the fountain or something. I don't know, wherever they want to. People can organize and do whatever they want to do, but I would just throw that out there. That'd probably be a good idea to bring some extra sign materials. There's always people looking and going, oh my gosh, does anyone have an extra sign?
Right. And yeah, I mean, our event's it starts officially at 1 is when the speaker program portion of it's going to start. But people are more than welcome to show up early and go out and flag wave and hang around. This one's going to be at the steps rather than out by the fountain. We're not going to have a stage this time because of the way the setup is there, but we're going to have a defined speaker area. We're going to have music. We're working on getting food, and we still do need some help getting some food. So if you know someone who has a food truck, if you know someone who has a food stand, by all means, get them in touch with me in some way, shape, or form. Get them in touch with Matthew here, and we'd love to have them there. And we want to have a great afternoon where we're defiant and we're happy. We're not a glum lot. We're frustrated. We're angry, but we're not an unhappy lot. We're going to go and we're going to have some fun. Hopefully the weather will cooperate with us. And it should be a good time. If
everybody shows up and brings their families and their friends, and we can fill the parking lot, the justice steps, and fill that entire area, we will be on national news. Absolutely.
Yeah, international news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it will be huge. And all people have to do is show up. I mean, wow, amazing. If
Yep.
you show up, you're going to get coverage. And again, I don't want to hear any of you naysayers talking about how crappy the media is, because they do suck. But you know what? If they have video and they have pictures and they put it out, great. We had pretty decent coverage from our last event, actually. I mean, we
Cool.
need the coverage. We need the people who are sitting at their homes. My mother-in-law over, working at DSHS, who feels alone, seeing the front page of the newspaper and seeing our rally in it. I mean, that happens. That gives her courage. Like, oh my gosh. And then she gives me a call and talks to me. I mean, how many thousands of people are like that are just, they need to hear about it. They need to see it, and they need those numbers to be there.
Absolutely. So, well, it's 12:36. I think we should probably wrap things up. I have to get up in the morning and go help my church get rid of some black mold in a shed. Woohoo! Probably in the rain. So I'm gonna have some fun.
Nice.
And I hope everyone else, if you're going to the rally down at the Capitol, please be safe tomorrow. Don't fall for any Kafka traps. Don't fall for any stupidity. Just go and hold your ground and be safe. And with that, Matt, thank you for joining us.
Yep.
And thank everyone for watching, either live or if you watch this live later, because I know it's so late at night. But hey, it's what it is.
The only time that we both have time.
Exactly. So you guys have a wonderful night. Keep the faith. Keep up the fight. Hold the line. We can only surrender. We cannot lose. All right.